Their heads together to come out with a really, really good solid certification that not only gives us a language, but practical application, as well as the other side of personal training, which is psychological, that no one ever really deals with.
Cross back, and then internal obliques come off the glute, because everybody see how it splits and then crosses again. Everybody sees that? So internal, external obliques cross. As it hits the level of the ribs, you've got an internal, oddly enough, and an external intercostal muscle. And if you were to guess, would you guess that they crisscross as well? And you'd be right. They do indeed. So as they crisscross at the level of the ribs, they also interweave to create a strong lateral position of the body. Then they crisscross all the way up at the level of the thorax, and then they hit the top, the outlet of the thorax, and then they crisscross again. Everybody put your finger right here on your SC joint. Okay? You've got a muscle, lean your head back, we just palpated it before, it's called your sternocleidoid mastoid, that goes anterior, and then as it goes up and ascends, it goes posterior. But you also have a splenius capitis that goes from the back outlet of the top of the ribs and comes forward. So essentially what you've got is a sternocleidoid mastoid here and a splenius capitis that goes like that, and they crisscross as well.
The only time you tell your client, I don't know if this is a good idea to train today, would be when? If they're a 9 out of 9, I would really strongly use stop and say, to get a 9 out of 9, you haven't eaten, you haven't slept, you don't feel good. You've told me you really don't want to be here, you're not focusing, you're in pain. Do you want maybe just a best of recovery session today? Can we do some mobilizers in a session, you know, in a hot tub? It can be that simple. And again, online, we've got all of our strategies. Online, we literally take you through case studies on how to manipulate the program, down to the sets, reps, time under tension, down to the execution, speed, with plane of motion, speed, everything we go through in the online. Because you can really jump down a rabbit hole with this. And the more you do it, the quicker you get. Because remember when we went through program design in the start, we said, look, it's a template. I've got my movement prep, I've got my strength, I've got my cardio, I've got my recovery work. It's all perfectly written. Don't throw it away. Take that same template and tweak it based on this.
So I'm in a situation where if I'm rolling around here, you'll find a lot of people want to lift their toes. As we've already stated this morning with what we do with Michelle, when you rotate, all of a sudden now there's weight transference if you can't decelerate, which will mean now that the toes will want to lift. And if you're not too sure about that, do that movement with your toes down, push your big toe into the floor 2 or 3 times. So remember, it's a single leg rotation and touch. Now, lift your toes up and do it. Notice the difference in your stability.
Real quick, do you see that flashbulb of, man, if I realize that everything is linked, if I have everything linked to me, from my foot to my head, if I change massive amounts in one area, I change massive amounts in another area, because all that force is distributed throughout that whole fascial line versus just in one joint or just in one muscle. So I can't just stabilize the lower leg, because if I just train only the lower leg muscles, well, that may be great here and it may do something here, but what about up in here? And what if it's coming top down versus bottom up? So just some quick things.
Feeling good. 2 primary theories of motivation, incentive and drive theory. Incentive means we're driven toward things we enjoy. Not only are they feeling good, but more importantly, they're not any longer feeling bad. We're driven to alleviate and eliminate pain. Threats to our safety, survival. Does that make sense? So we start creating the right conditioning to get them liking exercise. Self-determination theory. Adherence is never as good as when the payoff is in the process. Exercise becomes so enjoyable, it's its own reward. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So sensory acuity, and review this as you go through your curriculum in the advanced, you have all this information presented within it. Sensory acuity, notice, pay attention, empathize. Matching and mirroring, pacing and leading. Remember from Paul Taylor, the mind, the emotions, the body, collectively create individuality of the person we're dealing with.
With that tensegrity, really, it makes you think about, number one, how you incorporate movement for people and exercises, and really the effect that it has throughout the whole structure and system of the body.
was your feeling towards the energy and the style of presenting? Because there's no PowerPoints, there's no projector, there's no tables, and for a lot of trainers, when they walk into a room for education, they expect those things, right?
Right, exactly. The typical PowerPoint presentation, a guy looking at the PowerPoint presentation, oh, this is that. I really enjoyed it. Everybody's very dynamic, and one of the key things that really, I think, from the style of just using the dry erase board to write on, is it really, you could really see the depth of knowledge that was out there from all the presenters, because they're up there presenting. They're not talking to a presentation or something like that,
Well
but they
said.
really have to get out there and they know the material.